I got these chemicals inside of my brain. Vision tripping got me feeling like I'm going insane. Is it good or is it evil? Is it one and the same? Somehow I feel like I am destined to be part of this lane. Tell me how I ended up onto this yellow brick road. As I unfold, they've been telling me that I cannot grow. Trying to fit this mold that they shape and hate, I feel it's a no-go for me though. Yo, I know that it's not free in my soul. So I digest, manifest all the best with the drugs. LSD, shrooms and weed, what I need in my lungs. Give a fuck about your plug, you ain't in it for the love. You just stuck on what's been up with Twitter trends and such, but we young and just lost without a cause. Rolling chief our problems with a packet of Ross. Down another bottle, we don't care about the cost. This ain't nothing's what we do when we're lost. On the come up, on the come up. Chemicals inside of my brain, I'm on the come up. Vision never switching the lane, I'm on the come up. Trying to get the money, fuck fame. I create with the pain, we're not one and the same. On the come up.
This is Benjamin Major with Tainted.Media, and you're watching the Session 5 interview. Tripsitter album drops 4/30, that's April 30th this month on a Monday. I picked the Monday because Mondays suck dick, so you can wake up and find something to look forward to. Album release show on the 28th as well. My parents are from Bosnia, and there was a civil war going on at the time. My mom was about to have me, so we moved to Germany, had me there, went back to Bosnia. Everything was shit after the war, and then they refuged here. So I pretty much just grew up here my entire life. Like, I've never been back, but I was born outside of the country. So refuge was straight here to Utah. I don't know how they picked it. I think they just randomly, they didn't even they had a choice, but my mom was, either my mom or both my mom and dad were like, you know what, just like, we don't care, like, just take us somewhere. Like, then I ended up here, which I'm grateful for, because like, I wouldn't have like the life that I have now if it wasn't for that, and I wouldn't know the people that I know. So it was, I don't know, like, it was cool. Like, they just worked a lot. They worked a lot for what they have today, which is a house, and everything they got, they just struggled to work for. And I guess it's cool, like, looking back on that, and like, I guess knowing like the drive that I have obviously spawns from that. Like, they just wanted to have a good life for me and my sister, so it's cool, like, looking back on it now to see that's what they were fucking pretty much fighting for, you know, their whole life, and they got away from what they knew just so they could have a good life for us, you know. So yeah, it was cool. Like, they're awesome parents. Like, I would never take anything back and shit, so it was cool. Growing up, I had a great childhood. The type of childhood I had was kind of like sporadic. Like, I always just went from different thing to different thing. Like, anything that sparked my interest, I would go and do. It was sports, like video games, music. It was just a combination of a lot of different things, because my parents, like, they wanted me to believe in what I wanted to believe in, and like wanted me to do what I wanted to do. Not necessarily like everything, you know, but they allowed me to have the freedom to like have fun with what I wanted to have fun with, which was like fucking sports if I wanted to play sports. So I was heavily like into sports growing up, but music was always there. Like, music was there since fucking before I was even born. Like, both my parents loved music, and when they were living outside of the country, they would always listen to music from here, like Michael Jackson and fucking AC/DC. My dad played like all types of music to me as a child, so music was always there. I just didn't find that door for it until I kind of got older and realized like what I truly like wanted to do. But I feel like there's always music, you know, just like underneath everything there's always music. Yeah, so the certain memory I have to music being that ultimate thing that I wanted to share with people, like share my life with. The one memory that I can think of was I was in my room having a psychedelic experience, just chilling out at home listening to Kid Cudi, and like, even before then I kind of was doing music, but I wasn't really taking it that seriously. But I had this experience that was it was eye opening. Like it made me realize like music is the one thing that could help anybody in the world. And like as a kid, I always wanted to do something that helped people. I just didn't know what that was. And as I was like dabbling with music and I had that experience, like whoa, like his words, like what he was saying, like made me feel like that was my life. Like it made me feel like he was speaking to me. Like he sat down to me and talked to me. And like after that experience, I was like, whoa, I could like do this. Like I could come up with a message and like just help people who are struggling. Because at the time I didn't really know what I was doing with my life, and like I was having bad anxiety and just didn't know how to handle everything. And like as he was speaking to me, it made me realize I can do the same thing with other people if I really put my mind, put my heart and soul into this shit. So that was when like that was after that I never looked back. That was it. That was the thing I needed to do after that moment. I chose hip hop because it gave me a sense of like freedom to just say whatever I wanted to say. It all started with just freestyling with homies, with Sisu and my homie Otacon. Like those were the homies that I started freestyling with. But even before then, I would just freestyle them myself, just random shit. But it was really the one that I had the most fun with, like the genre that I just had the most fun with. Like realized I could say whatever I wanted to say. I had confidence in saying what I wanted to say, and like it just gave me that sense of like, this is like, I love this feeling. Like there was no other feeling like it at the time. So yeah, that was like the reason. And I knew I wanted to do music, so hip hop was just that foot in the door, you know, like because I already had like somewhat of a background with hip hop from my dad showing me like Run DMC and like listening to Eminem growing up and 50 Cent, like G Unit and all those like older cats. From my sister, she bumped that shit all the time, so it was kind of already like there. And then I just started to find my own like flavor with it, if I could say, you know, like, so that was just like the foot in the door with music. But eventually I would like to dabble with all types of music and just do everything. The first steps I took to music, it wasn't even like planned. It was really just work with what I have and just do it. Like I didn't take the time to stress about how it was gonna get done, what I was gonna use. Like shit, I like looking back, there was just no plan to it. It's kind of hard to even like talk about because I just did it. Like I didn't think about it, I just did it. It was like that moment when I knew I wanted to do it. You know, you want to do something so bad, like you don't even think about how it's gonna get done, you just find a way to do it. So that's what I did. I bought my own computer. Knew GarageBand was a good source to start with, so I started with that. Bought my own microphone. But the first track I ever actually recorded was out in Draper at its studio. Like wrote the track and I was like, this is it, this is gonna be the one. It's garbage. Like it's fucking horrible. Like most of my first songs starting out were horrible, but at the time I was like, damn, I'm like doing this. Like, and then I just took things into my own hands and like bought my own computer, bought my own mic, and just recorded shit non-stop and never stopped writing. I just always wanted to write better. That whole process, the whole start of like actually taking recording seriously was almost 3 years ago. So like in August, that'll be like 3 years. It's my first track I ever released, which is not out anywhere. I hope it's not out there. Like if someone finds it, it's probably bad, but that was released in like August of 2015. The first show was interesting. It was weird. So like I was on Facebook one day. I think I only had 3 tracks out at the time or something like that, three or 4 tracks. But I was on Facebook. I saw a flyer for this event in Denver. It said sign up, like come perform, like whatever. I just sent an email and like didn't think it would go anywhere. And then I got an email back saying like, hey, you can come perform, like you pay this much, blah blah blah. So it was pay to play, but like I didn't have any experience. Like I'd never done a show before, and I was like, holy shit, it's like a show opportunity. So I didn't care like that I had to pay, so I just paid the amount and grabbed a bunch of homies. It was out in Denver, and we mobbed out to Denver. And I don't even know who I performed with, to be honest. Like the whole time I was just focusing on how, like, you know, how I was gonna do my first show, and I wasn't really nervous the whole time. Like my homies were like, "Yo, man, you nervous?" Like blah blah blah, and I was just not nervous at all until I got on stage and like had that mic in my hands, because it was like, whoa, this is like it. This was like everything I thought of, like tried to manifest, was just happening, and it was crazy. It was a cool experience, but at the time I wasn't even going by my name. Like I had a different name that I was using, and it was just so amateur and so rookie, you know, but it was cool. It was a cool experience, like looking back on it, like, because it led up to all of this shit. So it was all like just part of the history, like in the making, the progression. The amount of songs I have on SoundCloud currently, I think it's around 50, maybe 60. It's getting close to 70 or something like that, which is weird because I don't even feel like it's that many, but it's about that much. But in total, like I have so many songs that I wrote and just never released, and like current songs that I'm just sitting on, the album that's coming up, and just like a lot of throwaway tracks I never used. So I mean, like close to the hundreds for sure, like as far as everything I've written in the past. But as far as like out on the internet, the songs I have for like, let's say I think like 60 or something on SoundCloud, and then I don't have all of them on Spotify. Spotify's just a select few. So yeah, because there's a lot of old songs on SoundCloud that I personally like don't fuck with anymore or like perform, but there's people still listen to it and the views still go up. So I'm just like, I just leave it for others' enjoyment and shit. So, yeah.
So you just mentioned your album. Is this your first album?
So the album is it's like, it's kind of hard to explain. It's not necessarily my first album because I've had projects in the past. I just call them projects, you know. And this, like, you could call this whatever you want it, if you want to call it an album or an EP, because it's 8 tracks. So it's like, if it's an album, it's a shorter album. But I've definitely done projects before in the past. So I wouldn't say it's my first album, but it's my first time like taking a piece of work and creating a concept behind it. And like the inception behind the album was like 2 years ago. So it was like 2 years in the making technically. And then I just really like, once I found the right people to work with, that was when I decided to bring it together. So yeah, it's definitely not the first album or like the first like big piece of work that I've done, but it's my first like one that I've really just like put everything into, like all of me, like, and really just took the time to make a concept with it. Something people could like, if they really listen to it and pay attention to it, they can take something from that and like make a story out of it if they want to. But into the album, really just, it's like I said, it started, the idea of it started like 2 years ago. The name of the album, I actually got it from there's this band, they're a metal band, like a melodic metal band from Germany, I think. I listened to one of their songs called Metamorphose, and their name is Tripsitter, like their band name is Tripsitter. And like for the longest time I thought that was the dopest name. I was like, this is so sick, like it's a common word, like Tripsitter. I never thought of it before, but I was like, this is sick, like I could make this into a song name or something, or come up with a concept. Yada yada yada. So that's how I kind of had the name for it. It always like stuck around in my head, but I never knew what I was gonna do with it. And the whole album is pretty much based off of this psychedelic trip that I had. It was a bad trip. It was a really bad trip that I had like a few years ago. But after having it, it really like made me realize. It made me realize I needed to take the time to sit and understand who I was and who I thought I was and who I wanted to be. So it really made me like sit down and focus on myself. Like it was a bad experience, but it turned out to be a good experience in a way. And it just made me really focus on myself as a person and what I want to do to like help the world and what I can do and shit like that. It was a really challenging experience in my life. So, and at the time, like the reason why the album name also works really well with this experience was I didn't have a trip sitter. Like I was by myself, like just experimenting with drugs, you know, which can be pretty dangerous, you know, if you don't have the right mindset or if you don't have the right people with you. So I had nobody there. Like I definitely would have been different if I had someone there watching me to tell me like, yo, you're just whacked out on drugs right now, you know. But I did not have that person there. So the album is really like, the name of the album kind of works because with that experience I didn't have a Tripsitter. I could have had one, but I didn't have one. And so in a way, like, it's kind of like a guide, you know, for your negative thoughts. Like, it's the whole album brings together every feeling that I think you could have as a person, like anxiety, stress, happiness, like completeness, like not completeness. Like it's a really it's a duality of life in itself. So that was like one thing like I really wanted to touch on, was the back and forth of like positive and negative, and like just trying to balance both of those, because I think that like as a person, for myself, that's like my biggest struggle, is finding a balance between those two and just balancing life out. So like I really wanted the album to be one side, another side, like teetering back and forth until it just kind of comes together. And even the album, I don't want to give too much away, but the way that I like set it up was to make you think like, okay, like there's a lot of like things I should be grateful for in life, and it's like when you open your eyes to everything in life, there's a lot of good things and there's a lot of bad things. So I wanted to touch on like both of those heavily. So I don't know, like the whole like experience for the album was just really eye-opening. So I wanted to put that into words as best as I could and just put it into a work of art. So that's what I tried to do. And as far as working with producers, it really took me a while because I was looking for a certain sound for the album. And once I found those producers, Will Stellar and Young Nothing, my homie Kenyon Rollins, I worked with them for a few months, and I was like, these guys have the sound I'm looking for this album. So came with the idea to them, they were on board, and then we just started making the beats from scratch pretty much. And then I started writing. As I was writing, before I even recorded, I knew I wanted to record with someone outside of my home studio, because for the past few years, that's all I was doing, was just working at my house and sending the rough drafts to people to mix and master. But I really wanted to kind of step away from that and get an outside perspective as I'm doing the work. So I met up with the homie Odd Marcus, he goes by Odd Marcus, but his name's Marcus Swedson. He lived out in Spanish Fork, and me and him came together through a homie, and then we finally got together to collab on a track. And then as I was in his studio, I was like, oh, this is the perfect place, like this is the dude I want to work with. Came with the idea to him, he was on board, so we started recording out in Spanish Fork. He moved to LA, invited me out there to finish the album. That's kind of how like that whole like trip happened. So I went out to LA, finished the album, and then it's kind of like the whole process behind it of like putting the album together and finding the right people to work with. And as far as writing, I just did the same thing. Like I would find the time to sit down and just gather my thoughts, find out what I wanted to say in the song and what the song should be about, and then just brought it all together, really. Yeah. So what's next is pretty much just the album dropping the 30th, the album release show on the 28th, and then after that, just more music, more projects, more shows, more merchandise. I'm just trying to get some more merchandise out there too and shit. Just progressing, just trying to do better every single day and try and fucking get to exactly where I want to be with everything. So just wanted to shout out like all the artists in Salt Lake, everyone doing what they want to do to get this fucking city on the map. It's like incredible. It's almost overwhelming. There's so many fucking artists and so many people doing things in the creative side and the artistic side of life that for the past like year I've just ran into in Salt Lake alone. It's like crazy. Like, without like everyone like doing that shit, like this place probably wouldn't even be heard of. Like no one would even give a shit. But even like the locals who aren't in the music scene are starting to pay attention. They even understand like, damn, like this shit's about to pop. So like shout out all the artists, like shout out 1139 Collective, like the collective I'm a part of. Shout out Radius, shout out AZA and all the Drugs fam, like shout out iDream, shout out Tainted.Media. The list goes on and on. It's an endless list of just artists who have come together to make this shit what it is. Like I'm just grateful to be a part of that shit.